A long time ago, I raised a son to know his Cameron from his carpenter.
Now, we're turning our arguments into content. This is I Am Your Father, where Gen X meets Gen Z in hyperspace.
I am Graham, and this is my son, Braden. We are the co-hosts of I Am Your Father, and I suppose I am the titular father.
Yes, you are.
In this scenario, yeah. How has your week been, son?
It's been good, very exhausting, but also very fun. Got to see a Marvel movie in theaters. Always a good time. Always excited to do that.
Yeah.
And actually, I went to the theaters a few times this week, so that's my happy place.
Did you? That's awesome.
Yes.
So you got to see more than just one. I actually think I know this because of what I saw on your letterbox.
Yep.
I did only the one theater experience, and then the rest of the things that I watched were streaming one way or another this week. I'm hoping to get to theater again this weekend, though.
Yeah. I am seeing it again this weekend, actually.
I was thinking, so I think I'm going to try and go back and see Sinners again.
Yeah.
Because I didn't get a chance to see it in IMAX. Unfortunately, the IMAX was sold out when I went, and so I didn't get a chance to see it in IMAX yet. But I've been really enjoying listening to and watching Ryan Coogler's explanations for how he shot it and why, and it's super fascinating. And I can't wait to go back and see it in that format.
Yeah, absolutely. I loved that movie. Yeah. I thought it was phenomenal. Yeah. And all the behind the scenes stuff has only impressed me more.
I did. We both loved it, which is crazy, right? Anyway. All right. So listen, today's podcast, we are going to be covering post Endgame movie ranking, which takes us right up to Thunderbolts.
Yep.
Asterisk.
Yes. The end of Phase 5.
All right. So the phase is now complete, and we're getting ready for a new phase. So we're going to rank the films that came out since Endgame.
Yeah.
And see where we stand on that. So, but first, we are going to do our 10 in 20.
Oh, yeah.
What is this segment about, son?
So, in this segment, we take 10 topics, and in about 20 minutes, usually closer to 25, unfortunately, we break down each of these topics, generally speaking, news of the week, and just share our thoughts on it. And I'm excited to get into this week, mainly because there's some good movies to talk about.
All right. Why don't you take the odds and I'll take the evens? Start us off. I am setting the timer. 20 minutes, go.
Awesome. So we had episode 4 of The Last of Us. I want your overall thoughts, and then I'll share mine as well. And are you invested in this season as much as season 1 yet, or is it falling short for you?
No, I'm enjoying it a lot. I thought episode 4 was really solid personally. I thought it was maybe the best episode of the season so far. I was the most engaged. I was having an insane level of deja vu while watching this, like tying it back to my gameplay experience.
Yeah.
I felt a high level of anxiety at multiple occasions while watching this episode, thinking, oh my God, I remember when I did that. Except obviously I wasn't really in that abandoned subway station or whatever else, right? I mean, but the game had that kind of impact on me that now watching the show so lovingly recreate it, I was having PTSD.
Yeah.
In a good way, I suppose. And I'm really, really falling in love with the performance of the character Dina. I think she's stealing the show right now, and really adding an additional level of humanity that I'm really liking. I thought it was a great episode. I loved it. What did you think?
Yeah, so I'm actually pretty hot and cold with this episode, and I actually think it might be my least favorite of the season so far. That being said, the subway scene I thought was one of my favorite scenes from the show so far. It absolutely, in a way that plenty of movies try to do, or movies or shows try to do but fail at, it absolutely made me feel like I was in an actual video game. I was like, yep, this is absolutely a stage in the video game, 100%.
Yeah.
And I thought the layout of it was just really clever and just very high anxiety during that scene. But on the other hand, I'm having more and more trouble with Bella Ramsey as Ellie as we go on. In this episode, I just feel like certain relationships jumped a little far pretty quickly in a way that didn't feel as natural to me. And it kind of just took me out of it a little bit. It didn't feel quite as earned as I thought it was going to be eventually. And also additionally, like you said, Isabella Merced is stealing the show as Dina, right?
Dina, yeah.
Dina, she's doing amazing. I really like her character. But at this point, the show is making me feel like Ellie is more invested in just hanging out with Dina than she is with avenging Joel, or even more so than she is just upset about Joel's death. And that's kind of what this episode made me feel, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But I have to say that one scene specifically, I would put it as like an all-time scene in the show. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah. I have to say that the sense you're getting in terms of Ellie's motivation is not unlike the game itself.
Is it? Okay.
I felt that in the game, that there was like moments where her teenage angst and love for that was developing for Dina was overshadowing her need for revenge, and she kind of ebbs and flows in and out of that.
Okay.
But I honestly, like, raising teenagers, I don't find that to be super unrealistic, to be perfectly frank. I mean,
Okay,
I think
fair enough.
There are moments of intense drama and everything's falling apart, and then 5 minutes later it's totally different.
I know.
I'm buying it.
I know we are way over time here, but I do have a quick question for you. Because I've seen a comparison of this scene in the game versus this scene in the show, and a lot of people have pointed out the difference in Ellie's reaction to Dina saying she was pregnant. And in the game, Ellie is pissed and she's like, "You're a burden now. Like, I don't want you here. Like, you're a huge burden now." And then in the show, "I'm going to be a dad." Like that's a very, very different reaction. Do you feel like it's something that you're okay with or appreciate, or do you kind of wish that they had kept it more true to how she reacted in the game?
I am not going to nitpick idiosyncrasies like that or changes that the showrunners, and even for that matter, Druckmann from the game side as his involvement in the show is, how they're modifying certain things and evolving them. I would say that personally, as much as I enjoyed The Last of Us 2, I thought that from a character perspective, it was uneven at times. It was very jarring. I think that it was flawed, beautifully crafted, emotionally jarring.
Yeah.
Like just real, but at the same time, there were other things where you were just like, wait, why are they doing this? Or why are they reacting this way?
Okay.
So right now, as they are, in a sense, massaging the story, it feels to me like they're correcting certain things. I know that, I'm going to probably take heat for being okay with them retconning the game versus, how I feel about Star Wars. But I don't really feel like it's the same thing. Like The Last of Us is not holy text.
You feel that they're improving.
Yeah, I feel like they're kind of fixing some flaws that existed rather than adding complexity where something worked perfectly already.
Yeah, so, I think I just need to play the game. But that being
said,
you
really should. You really should. I mean, it's both of them together are worthwhile experiences.
I'll see if they have like a bundle on PlayStation and try to get it.
They might at this point. But,
dude, take us into topic number 2, please, for the love of God.
We spent a good 6.5 minutes talking about the Last of Us.
We're so bad at this.
So topic number 2. Andor, episodes 3 through 6. Unfortunately, 7, 8, 9 are already released, but we, at the time of recording, have not got a chance to watch them yet. They came out last night. So we're going to talk about episodes 3 through 6. What were your initial thoughts on the second drop of season 2 of Andor?
I think that this specific arc was an improvement over the first. Not that I thought that the first one was bad, but I was more invested in this one. I really love how smart this show makes the Empire. They are just so smart that they feel unbeatable. Like, as we are witnessing these scenes, I'm sitting there, how could they ever be beat? They're just so far ahead of the game right now. And then they turn around and and just show us how smart Cassian is also. Like, he's so paranoid. He's so paranoid because of Luthen, that they almost see right through it. And they're just playing extremely high level chess, that when there are normal characters introduced in the show, like in this arc, who are falling for these things that you or I would fall for most likely, it's just
this sort of Frenchman.
Yeah, it's just so refreshing. It's such a high level chess game, and I just really appreciate that about this show.
It's 3D chess that they're playing. Yeah, I mean, and now just on the lighter side of this, I literally turned on my Google Translate app and held it next to the speaker to figure out if they were speaking French. And it is close enough to French that the Google Translate tried to make sense of what they were saying.
Okay.
But obviously was not saying anything like it. So it's
so
really
funny.
Interesting how they like seem to have taken the French language and then turned it into an alien dialect of some kind. It was
cool.
It's fun.
So cool.
So yeah, I mean, I think that up until this point, all of the politics, as we keep talking about, as it related to, say, episode 2 or episode 3, and everything else, it was all really about like how is the Force manipulating you? How can I use the Force to manipulate the situation, as opposed to just intelligence? So it was really, I mean, the Emperor was intelligent. The Emperor was playing chess when everyone else was playing checkers, right? I mean, this is a fully operational, space station, right? But everyone else was playing checkers, but it was always sort of implied that it was his use of the dark side that was allowing him to do that. Right. Here we're seeing everyday people. We're seeing military operatives. We're seeing government agents that are so intelligent. This is what I mean when I say that it is adult. It's Star Wars for adults.
Yeah, absolutely.
It adds such a high level of stakes. I thought these 3 episodes were amazing.
Yeah.
I was so completely enthralled with them.
Yeah, I feel like the 3rd episode started to lose me a little bit towards the end, but I mean, I agree with you. I think it's amazing. Here's a question. Do you think Luthen is solidified as at least a top 10 Star Wars character?
He is one of my favorites. I am enjoying him. You know what? That's a great question. I have not thought to sit down and rank them.
Yeah.
Re-rank them with him involved. But I love Luthen, and I really feel like there is an additional reveal about him and about his history that we don't have yet. And I kind of hope they don't fully give it to us. I'm going to go back to the Boba Fett conundrum, right? To me, what made Boba Fett the most popular, literally the most popular character to come out of the original, was because we didn't know who he was.
Yeah.
Because we had to fill it all in with our imagination.
Right.
And make sense of it. There was lore. There was, apocryphal retellings of his history. And what ultimately for me kind of ruined Boba Fett was getting the disappointingly benign details in the Book of Boba Fett that they wanted to layer in. I think that they, in some ways, kind of killed my favorite character in that way.
They really
did. There's something about Luthen. There's history there that we're not privy to.
Yeah.
He's given up everything, as he's told us. Going back to season 1, you and I mentioned I think it's not a single lightsaber. In rewatching episode 1 or season 1, I realized, wait, we actually kind of did have a lightsaber. It was in Luthen's ship. His ship at one point seems to extend out the edges, what seem like giant lightsabers.
Yeah.
And just destroy the crap out of a few TIE fighters, right?
Yeah, very cool.
And then moved on. No explanation as to that tech, but it very clearly seemed like... So there's a part of me that's like, is he secretly Jedi?
Right.
Or is he shamed Jedi? Was he friends? How does he have this technology? I want to know more about Luthen, but I want to know more here. I want it to stay.
We want to wonder.
I want to know more. I want them to keep me hungry.
Yeah.
I don't want them to overfeed me with cotton candy.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Moving on.
All right. So we're 12 minutes into 2 topics.
Awesome. Moving
And
on.
this next one is going to take up quite a bit of time too. So I kind of think we'll end up having to skip a couple topics.
Yeah, we will.
We'll see what happens. Okay, so you're up.
Yeah.
Topic 3.
So, the Thunderbolts, or sorry, just Thunderbolts, came out this past weekend. Marvel's most recent film, the end of Phase 5, and that's Thunderbolts with an asterisk at the end of it. I saw it. You saw it.
I saw it.
Is the MCU back?
This was definitely the best MCU we've had in a very long time.
Yeah.
I'm going to say, for me anyway, it's the best MCU that we've had. Really, I don't know, yeah, in a really long time. I mean, my appreciation of Phase 5 is very different than your appreciation of Phase 5. We're going to get into that a little bit later, but
yeah.
For me, it's a wow. And I'm going to add my own asterisk to this. I mean, I think it's the best for several years, but I'm kind of putting an asterisk next to Wolverine, Daredevil and Wolverine, because
Wolverine.
Deadpool and Wolverine. Sorry, Daredevil. Sorry, old man brain. I'm going to say it again. Deadpool and Wolverine. Because to me, that's I still sort of think of the Deadpool movies as tangential to the MCU. I know that that's no longer the case. I get it. So
it still feels
come
that way,
at me.
though.
But it still feels that way a little bit. So this feels like true MCU, and it feels like the best that we've had in a really long time. So I loved it. I thought it was great. There were certain things that I wanted more of, or really more differently. I think that I wasn't necessarily as prepared for the thematic elements of how the film dealt with depression and loneliness and isolation, and those things were all very powerful. I guess the reason that I didn't start even higher was that there was not quite as much fun as I was hoping for.
Okay,
there was a lot of fun. I get it, but I was kind of thinking that we were going to get a little bit closer to the tone of a Guardians of the Galaxy, and that was what my palate was ready for.
Okay.
My sense is that after I see this film a second time, my rating will likely go up.
Yeah. So I kind of am opposite of you in that sense, where I was hoping that this movie wasn't going to be bogged down with too much humor. Mm-hmm. And I was ready for them to tell this kind of a story. And they actually took it more seriously than I even expected them to. I thought the way they did it was actually just amazing. And I went with some friends, and so it was me and my wife, and then this other couple. And at the end of the movie, which I'm going to get into a little bit of spoilers here, but Sentry, a.k.a. the Void, a.k.a. Bob, is obviously very depressed. And that's where the
Robert
Void...
Reynolds.
Yep. That's where the Void comes from. And ultimately, they realize that all they can do is be there for him, right? All they can do is embrace him and tell him that they're there for him. And here's where that generally doesn't work, is in situations like, sorry, I'm going to give you a little bit of a spoiler because I know you haven't seen it, but Captain America Brave New World, where we end up talking down the Red Hulk, or... There's a lot of movies nowadays where the villains are very sympathetic. They're not beaten by getting knocked out. They're beaten by getting talked down. Sorry. And this is kind of a frustration that a lot of people have. And I went into this movie and it did not bug me at all. I was like, this is how you do it. Like, this is the perfect way to do that, where the villain is not really so much a villain. He's doing horrible things, but at the same time, he's very wounded. He's very down, and he needs them. So the way they handled that, I was super impressed with. I thought this movie was really, really great, and I think it mixed. I think it just found the perfect balance for this movie, in terms of the tone, with telling a very compelling and serious story about grief and depression, while also still having a lot of really fun moments and really funny moments as well. And I really liked this movie. Like you said, it's one of the best movies that Marvel has delivered in a very long time.
What was your Letterboxd rating? Remind us.
I believe I gave it 4 stars, but I
4 stars.
almost agree with you where when I see it this weekend, there is a possibility that it goes up to a 4.5. I'm not for sure, but it might.
Okay. And you think you gave it 4? How do you define 4 stars? Like I know you and I have talked about this before. We each have like kind of like a definition for each rating to kind of help us keep track. Do you have a what's the name of your 4-star rating?
My 4-star rating essentially, and it's funny because I have to actually write this down in my Letterboxd bio so I can reference it and make sure that I'm rating things properly. But a 4 to me is basically a really great movie that I will definitely regularly rewatch. So a step below that would be a really good movie that I might rewatch, but an 8 is a guaranteed multiple rewatch.
That's an 8. That's an interesting.
4.
Wait, so I just so for me, I have 4. Just to me, is listed as great.
Great.
4 is a great movie.
Yeah.
3.5 is a very good movie, and I believe that's what I gave Thunderbolts.
It is
a very good. Yeah, very good. So I'm pretty stingy with my 4.5s and 5s, which I classify as 4.5 is almost perfect and 5 is perfect.
Me too.
5 is a perfect film. So I don't think that 3.5 is a bad rating. I mean, that's a very good movie.
3.5 is great.
But I agree that when I see it a second time, which may be this weekend or may not be, whichever movie I end up seeing, whether it's Thunderbolts or Sinners, my sense is that my appreciation will increase, and I may increase my rating on both of them from very good to great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can you believe that we're 3 topics in and we have 1 minute to go in our 20? This is the worst we've ever done.
Yeah, we're gonna cut out a few of these for sure.
I think we should jump. Well, where do you want to jump in? You pick one. We've got 10 here. We've only gone through 3. Where do you want to go next?
Yeah, we could talk about the second part of this topic when we're ranking further down below.
Yeah. Yep.
I think we should real quick talk about the news that Jeremy Renner has shared about denying a season 2 of Hawkeye because they offered him only half of what they offered him for the first season. Thoughts?
This was super painful for me to read because I'm really big on Hawkeye.
Yeah, you love season 1.
I'm trying to remember if we ranked these before. Maybe we didn't. Maybe I just did my own ranking. I think I did. I think what happened is right after Thunderbolts, I just updated my ranking of Marvel in general.
Yeah.
And I was including the television shows in that, and I was reminded about how high in the total ranking I have Hawkeye. That's our 20 minutes, by the way. We're going to keep going. So I am really disappointed that they're not going to do a second season of Hawkeye, and I'm really surprised that it's going to come down to money, because it really feels to me like that's not been the issue with the MCU, like who they're going to pay and what. I know that there's obviously the really famous scenario with Terrence Howard, but other than that, this is the first time since that, which was literally coming off the first MCU film ever. This is the first time I'm hearing of any scenario where something's not happening because of money. There's definitely been differences of opinion
about it, right?
Yeah, there's been differences of opinion, and maybe that's not true. I mean, obviously there was this whole thing with Scarlett Johansson and Black Widow and the rev share scenario, but that wasn't because she wasn't paid enough. It was because from her perspective, Marvel had changed their strategy, which negatively impacted her residual. And she felt like that was a breach of contract, but she was promised what she was promised up front. She signed on to do it. This is the first time we're hearing about this. All that being said, Hawkeye is probably my second favorite of the MCU television shows.
Yeah.
I so far I've rewatched it every Christmas. I think it's a fun Christmas rewatch. Everything related to Hawkeye, everything related to Kate Bishop, everything related to Yelena. And the Yelena Kate Bishop relationship, I felt like was really special.
Yeah.
So, I'd be disappointed if they tried to do a season 2 without Jeremy Renner, and only focused on the Kate Bishop character. Though, I did like it.
Yeah, I hope they don't do that. I hope that this is a a negotiation strategy on his part, just calling him out publicly, hoping that they'll walk it back a little bit. But I really love Hawkeye too, and I love Jeremy Renner in that role, and I feel like the show really gave him a lot of room to display that character in really emotional ways, and I really appreciated that. So I hope we get to see more of that, and I hope it's not only the Kate Bishop show, but their duo again.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite MCU characters, and his portrayal of Hawkeye, I think, is one of the best in the MCU across the board. I think he has done so much with so little, and this was an opportunity for us to get more of him. And I think it was very successful. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't flawless. Probably my least favorite performance of
Vincent D'Onofrio.
Vincent, thank you, Vincent D'Onofrio as
That's rough.
Yeah, it was.
It's not
it
my
wasn't
favorite either.
the best. Even the costuming was tough, but that's to me the only weak point of that series.
Yeah.
All right, let's do one more topic before we move on. I know we're gonna get 5 in 20, maybe in 25, 5 in 25.
5 and 25.
Speaking of rough, this is what we're giving to our listeners. All right, so I'm going to pull one out here. We're going to talk about May releases that are upcoming still to finish off the month. We are, at the time of recording, 7 days. By the time this episode's released, 10 days into the month. We have a few May releases coming up. So far, the month has been dominated by an April release, Sinners and Thunderbolts. But so far for the rest of the month, we've got Final Destination opening next week. We've got and then really Mission Impossible and Lilo and Stitch as the anchor for the month, both releasing on the 24th. There are a few others, mostly in streaming. We've got Karate Kid Legends at the end of the month, Mountain Head on Max, The Fountain of Youth on Apple Plus, and the Murderbot series on the 16th. How are you feeling about May releases, and is there anything that's still coming out this May that you're excited about?
I will absolutely be there day one for Mission Impossible. That's a franchise that I really love, and we will definitely be ranking that at some point, maybe the week it comes out. I absolutely adore that franchise, so I'm very excited for that movie. And honestly, Lilo and Stitch, I'm also looking forward to. My wife, Nat, really loves Lilo and Stitch. That was one of the ones she grew up on, one of the most regular rewatches. So she's very excited for that one. And I think we're going to see it with her family. And so I'm looking forward to that one as well. That's really about it. I'll see Karate Kid Legends. I'm not sure that I'll spend the money to go see it in theaters, maybe on like a $5 Tuesday or something. But
I anticipate the same.
Yeah, I don't see that one making too much money. That's really all I'm very interested in for May. June and July have quite a bit more that I'm looking forward to.
Yeah. So I'm not a horror fan. I'm skipping Bloodlines, but right now it's predicted to kind of jump to the top of the box office starting next weekend. I'm curious about Murderbot, but we'll be able to stream that when we want to. And I'm also curious about the Fountain of Youth on the 22nd. I think that May 24th is an interesting date with both Mission Impossible and Lilo and Stitch. The good news about us going to see Mission Impossible is we won't have to worry about too many loud kids because they'll all be in Lilo and Stitch. I'm a little. I mean, I guess my prediction would be that Lilo and Stitch outgrosses Mission Impossible on the opening weekend.
It'll probably make a
lot of people I know. You mentioned your wife. Some other people I know. Some people that are very close to me. Lilo and Stitch is one of their all-time favorites, if not their all-time favorite. So I have a feeling that this film has a built-in audience that I think is going to go. But I will say the sleeper for me is also going to be Mountain Head. This is written and directed by the individual that made. Never mind. I'm not coming up with it.
that was
Succession.
rough.
Succession. No, it was rough. That made Succession. I think it's going to be a really timely and politically and emotionally challenging film. I'm really curious about Mountainhead, but yeah, I mean, for me, it's Mission Impossible is the one I'll go to theaters for.
Mission Impossible all day. And I think it's the last one, at least with Tom Cruise. So,
yeah, are you curious about what they do afterwards? I'm hearing a little Glenn Powell conversation. I'm hearing some other things.
That franchise is definitely not over. It's a famous IP, and a great opportunity to put another A-list star in there to do some crazy things. So it's not going to die. But
Here's the question, though.
Ready for them to wrap it
what's
up.
Tom Cruise going to do? What's Tom Cruise going to do after this? Like, what's
Top
the
Gun
next
Maverick,
phase for him?
The third.
Third?
Yeah. Who knows? He's going to do lots of crazy stuff until he dies.
All right, that ends our some number that was less than 10 in some
30.
number that was way more than 20.
Yeah, that was rough. Rough. Rough is the word for today.
Yeah, rough is the word for today.
All right,
fair enough. All right, should we get into our main topic?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, go ahead and introduce it for us.
Yeah, as you mentioned earlier, we are going to be breaking down the MCU post Endgame, and that's going to be specifically the movies. Another day we will talk about the series, but there's just a lot. So there's already 14 movies to talk about, so that's what we're going to do. They have had, I think, some really great movies in here, and some of my least favorite movies ever at the same time. So pretty hot and cold. Definitely, the Infinity Saga was not perfect. It definitely had some low points, but this saga so far has had much lower points for me. So we're going to break it down. We're going to give our rankings. We're going to go back and forth with it. What format would you like to do this in?
I think we can start at the bottom and just kind of go back and forth. I mean, I 100% agree with your with your assessment in terms of the phase itself. It's had some high highs, and it's had some very low lows. And to quote the performer who played Obadiah Stane in phase one, in a different film though, there's strikes and gutters here. Strikes and gutters.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm gonna let me start off just because I've got an asterisk on my list, which is because there's one film in the phase that I haven't seen. So I have by default placed Captain America: Brave New World at the bottom of my list because I haven't seen it. So I'm really only ranking 13 while you're ranking 14. So why don't you start us off with 14?
Yeah. Well, 14 is not only at the bottom of this list, but it's, I think, at the bottom of my entire MCU list. This is a movie that I just really do not like, and that's Thor: Love and Thunder. I was very excited for this. The trailers made me a little nervous because it seemed too goofy, and boy, was that true. This is coming off of Thor Ragnarok, which is one of my favorite MCU movies. Truly, it's in the top 5 MCU movies for me. I really love that movie. I think it's so funny.
I think it's like a top 3 for me.
Yeah, it's so rewatchable, and I was very excited for a follow-up to it. And instead of getting one of my favorite movies, I got literally my least favorite movie in the MCU for so many reasons. This one has just sat so horribly with me. I left the theater, I was like, yeah, that wasn't very good. But the more and more I sit on it, the less and less I like it. It frustrates me in so many ways. They brought in Christian Bale, who is an actor that I love, and just gave him nothing to do. Taika just went off the reins and went absolutely crazy with this movie. And it has some of the worst jokes in the MCU, just jokes that do not land and long outstay their welcome. Specifically, some screaming goats and some beat pills that look like hand grenades. It's just bad, and it just felt like we really regressed with Thor again. And so I could talk about so much about this movie that I didn't like, but it was a major disappointment. Other than like 1 or 2 interesting action set pieces, I think this movie is mostly missed opportunities, filled in with a lot of really crappy humor and crappy decisions.
Yeah, I get your take on it. I have it ranked a little higher, but it's definitely on the bottom third of my list.
Yeah.
I think that the charisma of certain performers pushes it up a little bit for me and helps to cover the sins of some of it. I also think that I might be a little kinder to it because of the time in which it was made. I mean, by all accounts, Taika Waititi was having to direct a huge portion of this movie over Zoom and things like that. So the fact that it went off the rails shouldn't be super surprising to us. But I agree. I was pretty heartbroken and disappointed at how this film came out, considering how high I was on Ragnarok.
Yeah. I mean, I watched a documentary. Disney Plus releases like a little behind the scenes for each project they release. I think it's called Assembled. I watched the making of Thor: Love and Thunder, and after I finished it, I was just like, how was this not a great movie? Everything about that seemed great, and what we got was just so far from great. And you know what? To compare it to Thunderbolts real quick, this is an example of where Thor: Love and Thunder failed, and that's dealing with Jane having cancer. This is a very serious and somber topic, and we had about one scene where you could kind of feel that there was some weight to this, and it was pretty much a joke the rest of the time. And then Thunderbolts deals with a similarly difficult topic and still mixes in humor and joy in there, and it balances out really well. This movie, Thor: Love and Thunder, just absolutely did not handle its topics well. It didn't know what it wanted to be other than ridiculous, while pretending that it was going to be a little serious.
Yeah.
But
I get it. I understand why it's at the bottom for you.
Yeah. So take us into 13.
In the 13 slot, we both have Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantum Mania. There's a lot of issues with this film. The Jonathan Majors fall apart notwithstanding, because that was almost the only thing that was redeeming about this film. Was like, I wanted to know what happened next, and then we're not going to get that.
Right.
But to me, the rest of this film was sort of an overuse of the volume and just kind of just like a cosmic nonsense that we got. And this film was so ungrounded for me that it was definitely my least favorite film of the phase. Yeah.
I mean, I would agree with you. This is just the most egregious offender of the CGI issue. This entire movie feels like it was shot with a big old blue wall behind them. And it's tough. Like, nothing feels tangible in this movie at all. It almost feels worse than the prequels of Star Wars to me in that way, where it just does not feel real at all. I would agree that I think Jonathan Majors' performance as Kang was easily the most interesting part about this movie.
Yeah. He made me want so much more from 100%. Yeah. I think that one of my single biggest regrets about this entire phase is that we're not going to get more Jonathan Majors.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. But then again, like, this movie, whether it was in reshoots or not, ultimately didn't handle him well. Like, it's really frustrating for me that they're setting up at this point the big bad of this phase of the MCU moving forward, and ultimately he is bested in a fist fight by Ant-Man, a man, and ultimately dragged away by an army of ants. And I wasn't buying him as this huge threat because of that decision they made. And
that's a great point.
And that's frustrating. And then on top of that, there were two characters in this movie that I also just found very frustrating in their portrayal. And that was MODOK, just because he was hard to look at. Really, really rough.
That was tough.
And not as funny.
That was tough.
Yeah, and not as funny as they thought it might be. And also,
not funny at all in my perspective. I didn't laugh once.
Yeah.
At that.
No, me neither. And unfortunately, a performance that I wanted to like that I didn't like. Well, maybe not so much the performance, but the way that the character was written, and that was Cassie Lang, Ant-Man's daughter. It's really frustrating for me right away in the movie where she is preaching to her dad that he doesn't care about people um, because he doesn't go to rallies and protests, but he's responsible for saving, first of all, the universe, but on a smaller level, countless lives. And but he's a bad guy, and so that whole aspect of her being disappointed in who he was throughout the movie, while he is just trying his best, it was a little frustrating for me.
Yeah. So this is where the "I am your father" generational gap will really show itself. I found that to be remarkably realistic, despite the fact that she was wrong.
Fair.
This is what happens.
Realistic, but
when
not
you have
enjoyable.
teenage children. They not, obviously I haven't saved the world, but this is I found that relationship to be remarkably on point. But I get you. All right, we're spending a lot of time on the bottom of the list. Let's move up to some stuff that we liked a little bit more.
Yeah,
but just a little bit more.
Just a little bit more. For me,
oh yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, I have Black Widow in my 12 slot, and this was a movie, again, just one of the ones that I liked less and less as I watched it. I've seen this movie 3 or 4 times now. For context,
really,
my wife fell asleep all 3 times she tried to watch this movie. It wasn't late at night. She wasn't exhausted. She was just bored. And I don't think this movie is very boring. I actually really appreciate the first 2 acts of this movie. It really, really loses me in the 3rd act. And again, I can appreciate where Marvel was at this time. This is during and post-pandemic. Things were difficult. It wasn't going to be the highest quality because of the situation that we were in. But the 3rd act really loses me because they decided to take what was otherwise a really grounded, fun movie and just blow it up into a major CGI fest again. And it looks really bad at the end. It's not a set piece that I think is even really interesting. And I have a really hard time forgiving the character assassination of Taskmaster, who is actually a very interesting character to me from other shows and in the comics. And I was very much looking forward to in this movie. And ultimately, I was so extremely disappointed with the MCU's take on him or on the character.
But then you must be disappointed with their continued take because
yes, I am.
mean, Taskmaster is fairly unceremoniously dispatched in the first 5 minutes of Thunderbolts.
Right.
So but you've got that one significantly higher rated. I'm calling BS on this because for me, Black Widow is quite a bit higher. You've ranked it 12. I actually ranked Black Widow 5.
Yeah,
out of
major difference.
The 14. Yeah, with each subsequent rewatch, I have enjoyed this movie more. And I think that, I think it's underappreciated on my list. I think it's an underappreciated film. I think that the introduction of Florence Pugh and Yelena as Yelena in this series is, to me, it's seminal. It's one of the most important aspects of the whole phase.
Yeah,
I think that she breathes new life in, and her performance, both in Black Widow, moving into Hawkeye, and then ultimately in Thunderbolts, is one of the most important performances and additions to the MCU ever, but certainly of this phase.
Yeah.
So I have it ranked quite a bit higher. I think that it's not a perfect film by any stretch, but I think it's much better than most people give it credit for.
Yeah, I will add quickly, you're absolutely right. She's without a doubt the best part of that movie and one of the best decisions that Marvel has made in phases 4 and 5. But that's almost another problem with that movie is there are at least 2 characters in the Black Widow movie that I am more invested in and find more interesting than Black Widow.
And
that's
David
kind of
Harbour,
a bummer for
I
me.
assume, as Red Guardian, is the second one you're referring to.
Yeah.
Yeah, and ultimately, I think he's also transcendent. I mean, even Thunderbolts, I think, takes a massive step up the second that he is in the film.
Yeah.
So I
Black
agree.
Widow.
I agree with you on both of those points as far as their quality. But that's one of the reasons that I have it ranked significantly higher. It's way up. It's number 5 for me.
Yeah, for me, it's a victim of its own success in that aspect. But
Okay, fair enough. All right, at the number 11 spot, I am regurgitating your
no,
Thor:
quick.
Love and Thunder.
You missed your 12.
What? Oh, I missed my 12. Well, I'm going to apparently talk about my Thor: Love and Thunder at 11 first. So for me, number 12 is The Eternals, a film that I really wanted to like. I think that this was Marvel attempting to, at least on paper, go back to some of the things that made them successful in phases 1 and phases 2, with turning the reins over to a seasoned director with a POV that added a perspective that you might not otherwise get in a superhero film. But by all accounts, that was really just on the surface, and it wasn't really happening. And this film feels to me like an absolute mess. To me right now, 12 and 13, and again, not counting 14, I'm not going to rank Brave New World, but 12 and 13 are just sort of a battle of the worst. Just like I thought Eternals was an absolute mess.
Yeah.
Despite an insanely good cast, it was an absolute mess.
Yeah, I'll touch on it. I actually have Eternals in my number 8 slot. So right around the middle, right? I actually have grown to appreciate this movie more since it came out. It's one of the few movies in these phases that has grown on me. And it is very flawed. It's a very flawed movie. And I actually think this is one of the few cases where it would have benefited from being a Disney Plus series, where we could spend more time with these brand new characters and these brand new concepts for the MCU. I think it definitely is trying to do way too much in too little time. But I have to respect the swing that Marvel took with this movie. It's something that people had been asking for them to take risks like this, and they did. And it didn't work out, but I think this movie has a charm to it. And it's not a regular rewatch, but I'm definitely not upset about turning it on and watching it.
Okay. I mean, there are some stand-up performances. I thought that Brian Tyree Henry was very, very good in it. I loved his character. I loved Barry Keoghan's performance.
Yeah.
But I kind of feel like almost everyone else fell short. And there's some remarkably good performers in this film. I think
There are.
It's an embarrassment of riches, to be honest. And the fact that they squandered it, it is the parable of the talents. Like, they buried this thing. Like, they were given so much, and this was all just buried in the dirt.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
I hear you.
Yeah. So, all right. So I already touched on number 11. Your number 11 then gives us a new film, which I've also ranked quite a bit higher. Let's talk about Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah, absolutely. I was nervous about this movie from the get-go. The trailers looked very good to me. Hot take, not the biggest Sam Raimi fan.
Neither am I.
There's not a Sam Raimi movie that I love. And so the fact that, a lot of people were treating this like the prodigal son returning to direct another superhero movie. And I was like, that's a load of BS. This is not going to be what you think it's going to be. That being said,
I agree. Never been a fan of the Sam Raimi Spider-Man films.
The appeal of this movie to me is Elizabeth Olsen as the Scarlet Witch. That is what makes this movie enjoyable to me. It was what was getting me excited to see it in the theater. We actually saw this movie the night of our rehearsal dinner, me and my wife's
the
rehearsal
night before
dinner.
your wedding.
Yeah, we did. We went and all saw it together, and that was very fun. And there are some oh crap moments in this movie, and
no doubt.
And for that reason, like, I have fond ideas and thoughts about this movie, but as a whole, I think it falls just very short. I really appreciate the direction they took Wanda. I don't think they did it very well, coming off of WandaVision. I felt like it was a little abrupt and confusing. But that being said, had they done it properly, what we got I thought was very fun. The Scarlet Witch as a villain was quite terrifying. She had some brutal kills in this movie that I kind of can't believe slipped into a PG-13 rating. And if I'm being honest, when I think about this movie, I think about that scene and pretty much that's it. And I don't want to spend too much time on these low ranked movies. For me, I'll let you talk about it, but there are just some things in this movie that I cannot believe are real. Like the exposition where they are able to step on a pad and look at past memories, like on a TV, just to give us backstories of characters. When it's done correctly, I love it, but in this movie it's done poorly, and I hate when they do the whole, you can do it, you just have to believe. And America Chavez was able to defeat the Scarlet Witch because all of a sudden she was able to believe that she was able to. And it's just rough. It's not something that I appreciate about this movie at all. And I will just watch the Scarlet Witch scenes on YouTube. I won't turn this movie on and watch it in its entirety.
Flawed but fun. I think that there are two films in this whole list that created theatrical gasps, and this is one of them. And the other one is my number one on the list. So I think that has to mean something. You know, like you mentioned that night,
It's
we
fair.
were all in that we were all in that theater. Like there's the number of times that the entire theater just gasped and went, oh, like people were like freaking out. We were freaking out. I have some really great memories of watching that film that first time, but also as I've gone back, I really feel like they upped the ante in a way. Yes, it's very Sam Raimi-ish. Yes, there are some problems, but I like what ultimately they were able to do. And the Scarlet Witch is one of my favorite MCU characters of all time, and so I absolutely love the additional screen time and storytelling that we get for her. So,
yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. Let's move into our number 10. For me, I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. I want to get to the meat of this and the good stuff.
Yeah.
But for me, it was the Marvels. I am a Captain Marvel defender. I really liked Captain Marvel quite a lot. It's much higher on my list than it is on most. I know the movie gets a ton of hate. I enjoy Captain Marvel much more than most. I think that for me, the reason that this sits at 10 is it's not a great film. It's not great. But there's a lot less for me to hate than the films below it on the list: Love and Thunder, Eternals, and Ant-Man. So I think it's fine, but it's not a good movie.
Yeah, this is an easy one to breeze over, and it's because it falls into the fine category. There's not too much to be said about it, to be frank. There's
it's
not too many highs and not too many lows.
It's not terrible, but it's forgettable.
It is forgettable. And I actually like this one more than I like Captain Marvel. I had a good time with this movie. I didn't really have too many issues with this movie. I thought it was a good time, and it was a good time for the one viewing that I gave it. And I will only revisit it when I decide to revisit the entirety of the MCU.
Yeah, for that reason. So
by the way, it's in my 9 slot, not my 10. So we're pretty close there.
We're pretty close. Yeah. What is in your 10?
In my 10, I have Captain America: Brave New World, which a lot of people would have lower on this list, I think. This movie got a lot of hate. I still don't fully understand why. It gave a tone that I appreciate. In a lot of ways, it grounded back to an area of the MCU that I really love. There are flaws. There are plenty of flaws in this movie, mainly the main villain, the leader. Supposed to be very smart. None of his plans work. Literally not one of them. It's
you gotta
tough.
love when that happens.
It's tough. He's supposed to be so smart. He's supposed to have calculated all these scenarios, and not one Literally not one of his plans work in this movie. I won't go too much into it because you haven't seen it. What I will say is I thought it was perfectly entertaining. You can feel the reshoots in this movie. You can feel it pulling back and forth. But there was enough in here that I enjoyed that I'd be happy to revisit it eventually. And I think Red Hulk and Harrison Ford's performance was actually really, really good. Very sympathetic. The whole time before he turns into the Hulk, you are just feeling so bad for him. Like you are rooting for him to not turn into a Hulk. And ultimately he does, and it's sad, but it's also awesome to see an angry, rageful Hulk again. That was my favorite part of the movie. I loved the third act for that reason. And I think Harrison Ford gives, honestly, a better performance than I thought he was going to give in this movie. So it does kind of fall into the forgettable area as well, but it is not as bad as everybody's making it seem.
Well, you haven't watched Shrinking, I know, but I've been a big fan of his performances in Shrinking. So it's good to he seems to be on a bit of a heater in terms of his actual commitment to the character.
In terms of caring?
Yeah, and I like a Harrison Ford that cares. I also really badly want to like and root for Anthony Mackie in this role, and yet I feel like he has been cursed with with like rewrite and reshoot hell.
Yeah.
Obviously the series Falcon and the Winter Soldier was an absolute mess and had nothing to do with his performance. It was everything around the production of it, and it's to me nearly unwatchable for that reason. But it's not because of him. It's like nothing else works. You know. Anyway, I haven't seen the film, but I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think when you see this movie, you'll feel similarly that he's not giving a bad performance. He's giving a good performance as this character. But I don't know that by the end of it, you'll feel that he's solidified in this role as Captain America, the leader of the Avengers and so forth. And again, I don't think it's his fault. I agree with you. I don't think it's his fault. I think his performance is perfectly adequate and even good at several points, and he's kind of unlucky at this point.
Yeah. Would you say that the MCU has set him up to fail in some ways? I mean, they've not really given him the right platform, despite their best efforts, or
they
despite
absolutely
what
have failed him. They absolutely have failed him. First of all, they passed the mantle to him in a Disney Plus series, which I think was their first mistake, because the role of Captain America, the mantle of Captain America, is pivotal to the MCU, and they gave it to him in an area that a lot of people, unfortunately, didn't even know about, honestly. And then on top of that, he has only appeared as Captain America twice in, I think, almost 5 years. And now we're supposed to be going into these next few Avengers movies, buying him as the leader of the Avengers moving forward.
Right.
And that's tough because we haven't gotten to spend enough time with him, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, I'll check it out. I probably will stream it. It was just sort of a weird set of circumstances that caused me to miss this one in theaters. But all right, that brings us to our number 9 slot, which you've already touched on, the Marvels. For me, number 9 is where the phase starts to get good. And Marvel starts to give us a punching chance here, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Shang-Chi in my number 9 slot, a film that, despite being ranked number 9, I thoroughly enjoyed and really like, and I'm very much looking forward to a sequel for. Mm-hmm. I think it's got amazing action. I really love Simu's performance, as well as Awkwafina, and on top of that, even the return of Trevor. Yeah. I enjoyed this film a lot. I think I do love Trevor. I enjoyed this film a lot, and so I feel a little bad that it's ranked 9. I really struggled to figure out, honestly, like for me, 6, 7, 8, 9 were all kind of like I kept moving him around, trying to like nitpick where I put everything. But this one ultimately ended up at 9. Yeah. What are your thoughts on Shang-Chi, which I believe you have ranked a little higher than me?
I do. I have Shang-Chi, really, in 7.
Yeah,
and I really enjoy this movie. it would honestly be higher if not for the third act. I loved the hand-to-hand combat, the action sequences they gave us early on in this movie. I
Yeah.
think they
Yeah.
are up there with the best of the best in the MCU. And where
But
this
you
movie,
mentioned Act 3 problems in as far back as Black Widow, and I think this film has a similar problem.
it does.
Where they need to solve everything with a giant, insane CGI battle, and it all ultimately ends with something that is not grounded in any way.
Right. And it's tough because they're setting up a story with really grounded characters and real motives for a villain and an interesting relationship between a father and a son. And there's all of these things in a very grounded situation with great, gritty, grounded hand-to-hand combat. And in the end, he ends up riding and fighting a dragon. And it's easily, to me, where the movie falls apart. If not for that, had they stuck the landing with a much more grounded story ultimately, this would easily be in my top 5, if not even higher. I think there's so much to love about this movie, and it just loses me at the end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I get it. Again, that's why it's
little lower
for
for
me
you.
at number 9. But you have it ranked even higher. So,
Yeah.
but you're also looking forward to a sequel, right?
Yeah, I don't know that there are too many sequels that I want more than a Shang-Chi sequel. And I hope they
Yeah.
can kind of my opinion is not an uncommon opinion, so I hope that they can kind of take the feedback and give us something a little closer to what they should have given us in the first one.
Well, I mean, in the sense of the way that it ends. I mean, I think we saw that in Eternals. We saw that in Shang-Chi. We saw that in Black Widow. Even to a certain extent in my number 8 film, which we'll touch on now, Wakanda Forever, Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. I think that the ending climactic battle sequences just to me got a bit absurd, which is why it was pushed down. I really wanted to like this film. I enjoyed it. I think I was a little I was much more invested in Suri than I was in Namor. But to me, the biggest problem with this film is something they couldn't avoid, which was its absence of Chadwick Boseman, who was so transcendent and so special. Just like,
Yeah.
like I get. So I know for you felt like you've told me. Not to jump on your pick later on, you told me that you felt like Wakanda Forever was a superior film to the Black Panther. I didn't feel that way at all. I felt like the Black Panther was a much better film, and I enjoyed Wakanda Forever. Again, I think everything for me from 9 up is really good.
Yeah.
But I think that it was really difficult to recover from the absence of Chadwick Boseman.
Yeah. So I think I'd agree with you. I have this movie ranked in currently on my list. I have it ranked in 5. If I'm being honest, I think it's a little closer to 6, but I have to.
I was surprised that you put it at 5 over your 6, honestly. But
Yeah, I have to preface this that I've still only seen the movie the one time in theaters, and I really appreciated the way that they recovered with the really tragic situation and circumstances that they were dealt. And I have to say, I don't know if this movie will rewatch as well because it's very heavy. There are literally 2 funerals in the movie, and one of them being for a real life person. And it's very, very heavy stuff. That being said, I really appreciated Shuri as the Black Panther, and I really appreciated Namor as the villain. I thought it was really compelling all the way throughout. It gave us some really great action, some really great world building, and I kind of just have to respect it for what they were able to do with the hand that they were dealt. But that being said, I've only seen it the one time. I'm not so sure that it'll hold up as well for me when I rewatch it, simply because of how heavy it is overall.
Yeah. Well, I I have to agree with you in the sense that I think they recovered as well as they possibly could have,
Yeah.
considering it. And I do really appreciate Suri as a character. She was one of my favorite. She was one of my favorite parts of Black Panther.
Yeah.
I think she was fantastic. I felt like I don't know if I was ready for her to carry it all together. And I disagree with you about Namor. I found him somewhat uncompelling
Really.
as an antagonist. Yeah. So
You know,
I that's what pushes it down to the number 8 slot for me.
yeah, I will actually just add one more thing. I also think this movie does suffer a little bit from being overstuffed. I think, if I'm just being so honest, that you could completely remove everything having to do with Everett Ross and Valentina Allegra de Fontaine. I think you could remove the entire CIA subplot. I think you could honestly also remove everything having to do with Riri Williams as Ironheart. And I
Okay.
think that
Yep.
this movie would flow a lot better. I
Yeah.
feel that they were pulling themselves in too many directions. And that
Yeah.
I think had they cut this movie about 30 minutes shorter and really focused on Wakanda and I'm forgetting what it's called, Talokan, I think, basically the MCU's Atlantis. Had they focused on these two areas only, I think that it probably would have been even better.
I agree. I agree. I think the Ironheart portion is overstuffs it a little bit.
Yeah.
I am finding myself really looking forward to the series, but I don't know that I had to have it at the time. It definitely felt like something that I think this entire phase, to a certain extent, suffers from, and that is the need to make sure that it is establishing newness in the world building.
Yeah.
Even at the expense of the film itself that you're watching.
Yeah.
So many of the films in this phase are overweighted with the need to introduce new characters that will ultimately have their own Disney Plus series, which will ultimately lead to a film and a team up and a future Avengers film. And
Maybe.
it's just like, there's just so much glut and glut and glut. Yeah, I know. I mean, I don't really think that we're going to get them all, but I think that a lot of these films suffer from a lot of glut.
Yeah. They overindulged.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. So, we're at what, 7?
We're in
and
7.
we've covered both of these. We've covered both these films already. In 7, you have Shang-Chi, and I have Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Let's jump up to our top 6, which are all, for the most part, new films.
Yeah. So I'll go first. I will now have had Wakanda Forever here. I'm calling an audible. So
You're making an audible right now, huh?
yeah,
Okay.
I am. So I'll let you cover your 6, which is one of the bigger gaps in our lists here. Mm-hmm. What do you have at number 6?
For me, I have Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which I know you have ranked quite a bit higher.
I do.
Again, this is a film I like a lot. There are other films. There are 5 other films that I like more in this particular phase.
It's fair. Listen, the Guardians of the Galaxy franchise is one of my favorites in the MCU. Volume 1 and Volume 3 are top tier MCU in my opinion. Volume 2 I have a little bit of a harder time with, but I still really appreciate. But I really loved this movie. I really, really did. I think, again, it balanced just the amazing Guardians humor with a very serious and sad story, honestly. Whenever I want to rewatch this movie, my wife says no because she doesn't want to cry. She doesn't want to deal with animals being hurt and abused, and it's a tough subject matter.
Yeah.
But at the same time, this movie is just such a good time for so many other reasons. It has just an amazing soundtrack again. We love spending time with our Guardians. I love the fact that Peter is still pursuing Gamora, and ultimately it ends up more platonic than anything. I think it was a really great direction to take that and leave his character. I love diving into Rocket's character more and more with this movie. It has one of the greatest action scenes in the MCU. I'd give it probably a top 10 with that hallway fight scene. I think it's really quite fantastic. And
This is the Beastie Boys
the Beastie Boys
fight scene.
and on top of that, they give us our first F-bomb in the MCU, and I think it is just so funny.
Yeah. Yeah. And in that moment, we all kind of said, but, you know.
Uh-oh. Now we're
I think it'll be better. I think it'd be better
episode.
if you bleep me. Yeah, you just bleep me. It'll be more interesting.
I'll bleep you.
Unnecessary bleep. You just bleep like every sentence that I say, regardless if I said anything. Add a bleep to it. I think it'll be good.
I'll find humorous points to add some bleeps.
Yeah, I think it's good. Yeah, I mean, I like it a lot. I'm not necessarily discounting everything you said. I guess I just found the rocket story less compelling than I hoped I would. I've always been much more interested in Peter and Gamora than I was in Rocket. He was always to me a lot of comic relief. It is heartfelt. I don't discount what you're saying. I guess I also sort of I found myself fairly uncompelled by the antagonist in this film.
Really? I disagree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I thought it was a great villain performance. One of the better villains we've had in the last 14 MCU movies.
I totally did not feel that way about it. The High Evolutionary was to me a bit theatrical and unconvincing. I wasn't super compelled with it. But I again, I'm nitpicking right now because I did enjoy the film, so I want to make sure, before anybody destroys the opinions here. This is a film that I enjoyed and ranked high. There were several others I liked more.
I'll make sure to edit that part out. Gotta love a little controversy.
Yeah, thanks. So you've moved. Let's see. Did you already literally edit this on the fly? I can't.
No,
even tell.
I didn't edit it. But in your number 5,
so where are we at now?
Yeah, we're in
my
number
five.
And we already touched on 5 for you, and that's Black Widow.
Black Widow. Yeah.
So my new 5, which wasn't 6, but I called an audible, is Spider-Man: Far From Home. Again, it's 5 on my list, but I really, really love this movie. This is a movie that gets just so much hate, and I could not disagree more with all of this hate. It's not perfect, but I really do love this movie. I love Jake Gyllenhaal in everything, so I love him in this movie. I love Peter's dynamic with MJ and Mysterio and even Nick Fury. I think they take Spider-Man and put him in a situation that he hasn't really been in. I mean, he's outside New York for the first time in any Spider-Man movie. And I just think it's really compelling. There's so much in this movie that I really enjoy. And I think the Mysterio sequences where Spider-Man is in the visions or the projections, I think are some of the coolest things, some of the coolest scenes in the MCU period. And on top of that, Peter ultimately regaining or honing in on his spider sense, aka the Peter Tingle, is a really great moment at the end of the movie. I actually regularly quote a line from this movie that I think is subtle enough that nobody ever knows why I'm saying it. And it's from the scene where he thinks all the illusions are down. Quentin Beck appears to be bleeding out on the floor, and then boom, reveal, he's actually not. There's one more layer of the illusion, and he's about to fire at Spider-Man's head, and he catches the gun, moves out of the way, looks at him and says, "You can't trick me anymore." And I regularly, for some reason, say, "You can't trick me anymore," in a certain cadence and expect nobody to understand what I'm referencing. But I really love this movie. I really love this movie.
I do too. I have it. In fact, I have this movie ranked in my number 2 slot. Yeah. I'm super surprised that it's as low as 5 for you, and as recently as this morning, as low as 6 for you. Because I remember just how hot you were on this film when it came out. excuse me, how much you appreciated Jake Gyllenhaal's performance and what he added to the film. So yeah, I'm surprised to see that you rank it so low. Now, again, I think we're in territory of films you like and films you really appreciate. So I won't belabor the point, but I definitely agree with everything you said, with the exception of the fact that I believe that it deserves a much higher placement on the list. I've got a number 2.
Yeah, fair enough. You want to take us into our number 4s?
Yeah, so in number 4, I have the final film of Phase 5, Thunderbolts asterisk, the New Avengers. I like this film a lot, and again, it's a top 5 film for me in the phase of a rebirth within the Marvel universe to get us back to some really great movies. I enjoyed so many of the performances throughout. And I think there's a chance that it might bump up a little higher for me as I rewatch it over time. But it's in some hallowed ground for the phase. I think 4 through 1 for me are all really great films in the 3.5 to 4.5 range. And so it's tough. I think maybe only one of them has a 4.5, but they're all really, really like great or better than great films.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I thought Thunderbolts was fantastic. We've talked a little bit about it throughout and everything related, but to me, I think the coolest thing that this does is I think it really sets up Yelena as a pivotal character for the next phase, and I'm very pumped about that. I think that she adds, I think that Florence Pugh's performance and the character itself adds so much of exactly what makes the MCU perfect. To me, in many ways, she is the female RDJ. Like, she brings that Iron Man energy
She really does.
to the MCU in a way that very few have been able to do.
Yeah, I agree with you. I have Thunderbolts in my 3 slot, so we're pretty close there. And I'll get a little more specific with it because we kind of talked a little generally earlier. In terms of specifics, this movie brought me some of my favorite scenes in the MCU, and I know I keep saying that. There are a lot of scenes that I really appreciate throughout all of these movies. Even the bad ones have good or great scenes in them. One of my favorite scenes in this movie, first of all, was Bucky's arrival when he's taking out the 3 trucks and then ultimately their limo. That was one of my favorite Winter Soldier scenes, period. I thought it was a really great moment. We get to see almost like some Terminator parallels, and Bucky gets his, for the first time, his heroic superhero score behind him. And we get to kind of see a moment where the movie respects the OG. They respect the Avenger in the room, where we have these soon to be new Avengers taking shots at these trucks, not really able to do much at all, kind of just surviving. And then we have an Avenger pull up and just kind of offhand, just super easily taking care of these guys, like showing them how it's done. And I really appreciate that scene. And additionally, I think this movie did really great with all of its characters, honestly. But I really appreciate John Walker in this movie. I would actually argue that he was the best part of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier series. I really like his character in the MCU. Very flawed, and even tragic in a lot of ways. And this movie just helped push that feeling I have for him even further to the surface. He is a very, very compelling character, and this will be a really hot take. Unfortunately, and this isn't speaking to anybody's performances, but just kind of where the MCU has taken us. Unfortunately, I think at this point he's more compelling to me than Sam Wilson as Captain America. I really love John Walker in this movie. They give him a lot to work with, even in subtle moments. And just real quick for an example, one of my favorite low-key moments of the movie was when we find out that his wife left him with their kid, and Yelena, again, just the life of this movie, kind of just looks over at him, and he looks at her like kind of ashamed and just shrugs. Like, very small character moment, but very, very big. Like, very big moment for me that I really appreciated. This movie's full of moments like those that really elevate it for me.
Yeah. So I will touch on it briefly. Again, it was my 4. It's your 3. We're reversed on 4 and 3.
Yeah.
Loved this film. Really had a great time with it. So I'm not going to critique it right now. I'm just going to take a moment to give us an opportunity to talk about our expectations versus what actually happened, and specifically around character deaths. So let's post-mortem this real fast. You mentioned how important it was for you to see Bucky. I was convinced that Bucky was had his head in the guillotine on this one. That this was going to be Bucky's swan song. And I even caught a glimpse the night before I saw the film. Somebody posting is like, the Eternals has the most predictable death in MCU history. And I thought, well, great. Yeah. I mean, it's gotta be Bucky, right? Now, obviously what it turned out to be was predictability in the sense that it was throwaway. And they did they did dirty the character that you were worried about. Like the Taskmaster showed up, got one line, and then was destroyed. And I found myself, that's my one big disappointment in this film was it was like, what was the point? What was the point of having Taskmaster even in there for one scene, one line? But meanwhile, I definitely felt like had Bucky died, if this was Bucky's swan song, it would have been a really great send off for Bucky for all those reasons.
Yeah, I agree. They could have gone that direction, and I would have appreciated it, I think. But I'm not going to be upset that we're going to see more of him. He's one of my favorite MCU characters. I love Sebastian Stan in the role, always giving a performance that I appreciate. So I'm always down for more Bucky.
Well, you mentioned that you felt like John Walker might have been the best part of Falcon and Winter Soldier. I would take this argument in a different direction and suggest that Bucky Barnes has become the central figure of the MCU at this point. He's the glue that's holding the MCU together. Everyone else has retired, disappeared, died, etc. Bucky has basically been with us as from a very early film in phase 1, but in terms of timeline, one of the oldest, right? He's been with us, since that first Captain America, the first Avengers. Yeah. He has become sort of the most consistent character and individual who holds us together and binds these stories together between Absolutely. Both the theatrical releases, the television series, etc. Bucky, Sebastian Stan's Bucky Barnes has secretly become the glue of the MCU.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. I think he's one of 2 or 3 actors to appear in every single phase of the MCU. Like there are only a few of those people, and he's one of them. And I appreciate it. I'm with it. I love him. I want more Bucky.
So the other one would be what? Scarlett Johansson and as Black Widow?
No, she's not been in phase 5 because Black Widow was from phase 4.
Oh, you're right.
I believe Sam Jackson is in all 5.
Okay.
And I can't pull the other one off the top of my head if there even is one. Yeah, I don't have it, but...
Okay, fair enough. Okay, so in your number 4 slot, you have a different film than I do.
I do. I have Deadpool and Wolverine, which is, spoiler alert, in your 3 slot. And
yep, we flipped our 3s and 4s.
Again, I really, really love this movie. I saw it 4 times in theaters. Not necessarily because I wanted to keep going over and over again, like I need to see this again, but I had so many people I wanted to watch this movie with. And one of them being you. And this movie is just such a great time. And I think it does play on nostalgia a little bit, but it also just plays on connection, characters that we have connections with. And I think it's genuinely hilarious. And another amazing soundtrack, by the way. Just so many songs you're kind of just jamming out to throughout this movie. And any time with Hugh Jackman as Wolverine is a good time. He is that role at this point. It's going to be really hard to replace that anytime soon. But I mean, I don't really know how much I could say about this movie other than I saw it 4 times, and I would gladly go turn this movie on as soon as I'm done recording this episode. It's a great time all the way throughout. I think it's hilarious. It has some of my favorite laughs and scenes in all the MCU. And I have to say, the Like a Prayer song, the choir version from the end of the movie,
Yeah.
is a regular repeat in my gym playlist. It gets me so pumped up. And if nothing else, I appreciate that from this movie.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. The fan service cameos all work. Even our boy Channing Tatum, who we've already litigated that performance. So I won't get into that. But
People weren't too
Daphne
happy
Keane
about
coming
that.
back. Yeah, well, it is what it is. Daphne Keane, Chris Evans, Wesley Snipes, Jennifer Garner. I mean, there were so many great reprisals of characters. The film's a lot of fun. I enjoy it. I would watch it over and over again as well. And it doesn't take itself too seriously, obviously, but that's okay. So
Yeah.
I think it's a great spot. Like I said, I ranked it just one above Thunderbolts. It was a really difficult decision there, which one went where. Because I feel like my number 1 and 2 were pretty solidified, and then it was just a fight for third place. So
Yeah.
I give it a slight edge over Thunderbolts asterisk, but yeah, great film.
Mind you, not enough Daphne Keane in this movie.
Not enough. No.
Amazing.
No, I'm
All
super
of her
curious to
scenes I
see
love.
what she does next. She's obviously getting a ton of social media love and other things. We haven't seen her in a single performance that I'm aware of since
The Acolyte.
this movie came out. And we are, how many years out are we? 2 years out? 24? It was last year. It was early last year. So, it's been a little over a year. Nothing yet. I'm really hoping to see a lot from her, though. I think she was a scene stealer.
Yeah. Great
Yeah.
character. Obviously,
Yeah.
major scene stealer. Take us
Yeah.
into your number 2.
Yeah, my number 2, I'm coming back to Spider-Man Far From Home. We discussed this earlier. I think it is definitely the second best of the phase. Not of both phases 4 and 5. I keep talking about this as one phase, but it is 2. You reminded me just a moment ago.
Yeah.
I think it is the second best of these 2 phases post Endgame. And, we covered it. I think Gyllenhaal adds a certain life to this. I think that Holland continues to be great. Zendaya is a breath of fresh air. I think we need more Zendaya in the MCU. I don't know how much more we're going to get in reality, but I wish we were going to get a lot more.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it to me is a clear number 2.
Yeah.
For this phase, for these phases in Marvel.
Yeah, totally fair. And in my number 2, I obviously have Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which I also touched on. So I don't feel the need to speak too much more to that, but I love that movie. I love rewatching it. It's a great one. So let's just talk about our number 1. Both of us.
Which we agree on.
We do.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah, that happens more often than not, right? I feel like we oftentimes argue about the 3 to 6 zone, but we oftentimes have the same number 1.
Yeah, it's not a regular,
Yeah.
That's for sure. What is it?
No. Number 1 is Spider-Man No Way Home.
Yeah.
And this again, I wanted more Zendaya. We got more Zendaya in this. We get a little of everything here. We get some Benedict Cumberbatch, Happy's back, obviously Ned, but now we get to really go back and play with our nostalgia, similar to what drove my interest in Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. Obviously, we get the 2 Spider-Men with Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield coming back. But we also get Willem Dafoe. We get Alfred Molina. We get Jamie Foxx. This is a film that is really loaded. And when I talked earlier about the gasp factor, this film was loaded with gasps as I watched it for the first time in the theaters. I mean, fans just, including myself, were just going absolute apeshit over, especially like Toby's entrance. I feel like that was, and Andrew Garfield's entrance. I mean, they were both so great. But this was such a good movie, and it's been tough because we are now how many years removed from this, and Thunderbolts is one of the best we've had since. Yeah.
No, this is a movie that I adore with all my heart. Truly, there's been interesting discourse online about this movie because it came out and everybody was so hot on it. And as time has gone on, a lot of people have kind of done a little bit of a switch up and said, actually, it's just okay, and they're just baiting our nostalgia. And I just think that is really not true. This isn't just a cameo to get us excited. This is a full-blown story that makes a lot of sense and gives us a lot of the best Spider-Man development we've had in any Spider-Man movie, period. I absolutely, it is well recorded and will continue to be well recorded that Andrew Garfield is my favorite Spider-Man. I'm not saying his movies are my favorite Spider-Man movies, but he is my favorite Spider-Man. And the build up to this movie, though, will they, won't they be in this movie, was so fun. And I remember sitting in the theater being pretty convinced they were going to be, but having that seed of doubt. What if they're not? I'm going to be so disappointed. This is going to be such a letdown. And that moment where the portal opens and we see Spider-Man in the distance, I said, it's him, it's him. And he came out and the theater just went nuts. And my hands went up. We were like, yeah, let's go. Like, it was like a concert in this movie theater. And it's full of moments that I will never forget. I love, it's a weird thing to love, but I love Aunt May's death in this movie and how impactful it is to Peter moving forward in the movie. I love that it makes him angry and wanting to kill Goblin. I love William Dafoe as Green Goblin. I think he's one of the most menacing villains now at this point in the MCU. I love all of the back and forth between Toby, Andrew, and Tom. It's just such a great time, this whole movie. And it did kind of solidify Andrew Garfield as still my favorite Spider-Man, because the moments they give him to act and kind of develop past Gwen's death in his most recent movie, I thought were all phenomenal. I could talk about this movie for literally an hour because I love it. I am not only unwilling to agree with these people who say that it's actually not that great. It is one of my favorite MCU movies. It always will be. Nothing is going to change that. I just love this movie.
Yeah, it's a great film. I agree with you on all these fronts. I think it's really interesting to note how uninterested I was with William Dafoe and for that matter also Alfred Molina in their portrayals or rather the films that they were in the original Tobey Maguire films. I've never appreciated the interest and love for those films. I don't like them. I know it's going to be a hot take. I know people are going to disagree with me and say that I'm an idiot. I always found those to be just ridiculous. I think a lot of that ties back to the director that we talked about earlier, Sam Raimi, who I feel like was much more effective in Doctor Strange: The Multiverse of Madness than he was in those Spider-Man films. But those same actors and those same characters come back in this film, and I love them both. Yeah. And you mentioned William Dafoe. I thought that Alfred Molina's Doc Ock was so sympathetic and interesting in this film. I really loved it. And in some ways, it made me want to go back and give it and give Spider-Man 2 another chance. Yeah, but we'll see.
And the other thing, we love a movie with stakes, right? Like a lot of MCU movies can feel that the stakes are just fake. You know, they're not real. Nobody's actually going to die. And I just love the fact that in this movie we have a major death, and then on top of that, we don't necessarily have a happy ending. We have a major sacrifice by Spider-Man, Peter Parker, by the end of this movie. It ends on a note that really just showcases the sacrifice that it is, the responsibility that comes with his great power. And it's just really great. It's amazing. No pun intended.
Yep. I agree. All right. Well, that wraps up our list and our main topic for this episode. So thanks for listening to all of that. We're going long on this one. That's okay. It's a long form version. A lot of people are going to watch on TikTok and Instagram anyway. Yeah. But let's move on to the next and last segment of the show, the homework. Braden, you were assigned Grosse Point Blank, the John Cusack high school reunion film. What did you think about this one, which is a favorite of mine?
I thought it was very fun. It took me a little bit to really get into it, but by the third act, this movie fully won me over. I gave it a 4-star rating on Letterboxd, which means,
I'll
as
accept
we
that.
mentioned, great and
It's a great
rewatchable.
film. Yeah. Yeah.
It it was remarkable to me the similarities in this character and how I see Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man. Actually, just the very witty banter, the back and forth. I
Yeah.
really appreciate that kind of a performance, and I thought this movie was, and I was very surprised to be invested in this relationship between the main character and his love interest. It surprised me. It won me over more and more as the movie went on, and I'm honestly
Yeah.
already excited to watch it again in the not too distant future.
Yeah. I'm glad you liked it. It's one of my favorites. It's a guilty pleasure film in some ways to me, even though I think it's really well made. It's one of those that I just put on when, to have in the background sometimes. I think it's great. And I'm really glad to have been able to share it with you.
Thank
All right. You gave me some homework.
I gave you some homework. I told you to watch The Perks of Being a Wallflower. What'd you think?
I enjoyed the film. I'm going to say I gave it a good, not great rating, but I liked it a lot. There were a lot of things to like about this movie. I mentioned in my review that the weak point for me in the film was something that I didn't expect to be the weak point going in, and that was Emma Watson's performance. And I guess I just kind of felt like the accent and the American the plight of the American teenager was a bit too much for her to tackle in that point. I was a little disappointed in that, and I feel bad about saying it because I've always been a big fan of hers, and I think that she's in almost everything else I've seen her in is the highlight, and in this case I felt like she was the low light. But Logan Lerman as Charlie, Ezra Miller. They were fantastic. I was fully invested in every other character and what happened. I felt like the big reveal was somehow both a big reveal and a yada yada at the same time. It was a little like, it was one of those things where I literally paused it, rewound 10 minutes to see like had I missed something. But generally speaking, I got to say I loved it. A great soundtrack, super enjoyable rewatch. I don't really anticipate myself rewatching too frequently or on purpose. But good film, solid. I gave it a 3 stars.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. I do agree with you. Not the best Emma Watson performance, but glad you were able to get some enjoyment out of it.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. All right, we've got some new recommendations and homework to take us into next week's episode. For you, Braden, I am assigning Wes Anderson's classic, The Royal Tenenbaums. You have only seen, I think, one Wes Anderson film, that being the Fantastic Mr. Fox.
Yeah.
And I think that based on the fact that we've got a new Wes Anderson film coming out, The Phoenician Scheme, and which, by the way, I'm getting mixed results on when it's releasing. Some people are saying May 30th and some are saying June 6th. So I'm not sure when this is coming out, but either the end of this month or the beginning of next, a new Wes Anderson film is dropping. So I want to take you back to one of my favorite Wes Anderson films, The Royal Tenenbaums. Really fantastic cast, and I think very indicative of his style of filmmaking. And I hope you really enjoy it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So,
Yeah.
Your homework assignment this week is going to be Crazy Stupid Love. You let me know that you had seen some scenes from this movie, but not the whole thing.
That's right.
This is a romantic comedy that I really appreciate.
I think your response was WTF.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, you seemed really angry by my response.
I was a little angry. This is a great movie. I think you're really going to love it. It's Steve Carell, who is always just hilarious.
Yeah.
You have Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone reunited again. They have great chemistry. And
this was their first film, right?
I think it was, yes. And then you also have Marissa Tomei and a few other notable actors in there. And to me, this is just, first of all, one of my favorite romantic comedies out there. It's always a great time. I could rewatch this movie like every couple months, honestly. I think it's hilarious. And it also has, to me, one of the more interesting overlapping of plot lines in a movie. And it's just something I really appreciate. I think you're going to like this movie. I know you know a little bit about it, but I'm hoping you don't know enough so you can go in and find some real enjoyment in it.
Yeah, yeah. Big fan of Julianne Moore and Kevin Bacon as well in the cast. So yeah, this is a stacked cast. Joey King is in this film. Jeez. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of really great people in this. So I'm definitely looking forward to giving it a try and seeing if I think it's as funny as you do.
Yeah, I hope you do.
So I guess we'll cover it next week.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. Have we done much this episode, Braden, would you say?
Yeah, I think we've done quite a bit.
I think we did. I think we ranked. I think we debated. I think we disagreed, though not about who shot first, because we never disagree about that. And it's all just another day in the galaxy.
Exactly. So, whether you're Gen X, Gen Z, or somewhere lost in the timeline, please like, subscribe, share, and continue listening to I Am Your Father.
Because until the next episode, remember that with great power comes a great second breakfast, but winter is also coming. So may the Force live long and prosper with you.
Because we can do this all day. Peace.
All day. All right. Thanks, Braden. Have a good one.